All right, we are back with another exciting episode. You know, when I started this wonderful adventure of exploring my city of Mississauga, I realized that, having guests from all over the world actually has a bigger impact. Even though we're small, but we're able to connect with people far and wide. And this past summer, I had the opportunity. I took along my sister and my nephew and niece, and I heard about this place, a farm of all places. It still connects with everything that we do here, the body, mind, and spirit, because it's also very important what we put in our bodies and where the food source comes in. So, a mutual friend of ours, when I say mutual, I'm talking about the guest here, and I'm going to introduce her in a second. I said, hey, Bonnie, you got to go check out this farm. I'm like, okay, cool. The weather was perfect. We went out, and I really learned a lot about the process of milk, the care of animals. And I think everyone here in Mississauga, the Greater Toronto Area, has to go out and really pay tutelage to this farm, Gir Farms. So, Monica, welcome to Conversations with B, keeping it real, right here in the city of Mississauga.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And it
Yeah,
was wonderful meeting you guys.
it was, yeah. Just to give some backstory, when I connected with Monica, I said, "Hey, would it be okay if we come down to the farm before we do the podcast?" She's like, "That's the only way. It just makes sense. So this way, at least you can get an experience of what we do here." And I go, "That's fantastic because then we can discuss some of the stories and what I saw." And when we went to see her, my nephew and niece, they were just having a great time. And we're going to get to know about the farm and the amazing work that they do, holistic cow cuddling, agriculture, the milk industry. Let's talk, but before we get there, let's talk to Monica. Monica, how did you get into this whole industry of? I mean, not everybody wakes up, and says, "I want to be a farmer." They want to be like a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, or in the creative arts. But what got you into the area of farming? We can start there.
So, my husband and I actually always loved the outdoors. Just whenever we have three kids, every time we got time off, we would drive to the countryside. That was our getaway. And whenever we did that, we would always stop at like farmers markets, get the local veggies and, on the way to the beach. So it's always been in us to sort of live in the countryside. We lived in the city all our lives. And it was actually our spiritual master who guided us to say, you guys should do cow service. And we're looking at each other like, cow service? Like, what do you mean by that? Right? Like, so he said, no, you guys should serve cows. So we thought, okay, maybe it means to donate to a different goshala or different farms or give our time or service. But no, he meant a lot more than that. He actually meant actually serve the cows with your own hands. So we thought, okay, and when you have a spiritual master that guides you, you have to listen to them in a way that without knowing like, oh, is this right for me or not? It's like they know what's good for us and for what good for the future. So back in 2015 is when we got this where the farm we are now. It's 60 acres in Caledon, and 2017 is when we got the cows. And
Did
a
you say
little back
60 or 1 6?
No, 2015 is when we got the
No,
land.
no, no. The acres.
60.
60.
Yes, 60 acres. And we thought, okay, that's enough land. We have cows. That's more than enough land. And fast forward 10 years, we're like, oops, it's not enough land. And the reason why, because we learned a lot since 2017 when we got the cows. We learned so much about cows that, okay, well, now you need this much land for them to, graze on. And then we're like, well, we have all this manure now, so what are we going to do? So, well, let's grow some vegetables. But hold on, wait, there's more to that. And there's people coming. Okay, well, we need space for that. And now we're like 60 acres is barely enough. So about 3 years ago, we purchased more land just north of us so that we can keep some of like our bulls there, or some of the, we call them like retired cows that are, because we don't sell any of our cows, and neither are they ever sent to like a feedlot. They're kept at our farm until they pass away naturally, and then they're buried at the farm. So we give them, a farewell on our land. It's because we look at it as they've served us all our life. They've given us, milk and manure and love. And so we have to honor them when they're going, right? So we realized that 60 acres wasn't enough. So we bought another land. So now we have two lands. And what we're doing on the other land is basically growing, food in terms of like some of the larger crops that we're doing. For We're doing corn, and we're doing like beans, and we're growing their hay. So it's more, and on the farm that we live on here, we're doing all of like our organic veggies in terms of all of peppers and squashes and pumpkins, you name it. I mean, you saw the other day what we were growing. We're doing all sorts of veggies, right? And we're expanding on that. So that's what we do on the 60 acres here. So that's how, like, if you look at the background, that's how we started initially. And the journey is just, there's just so much now going into this that we thought, okay, we would just have some cows, they'll just be in our backyard. And we never thought we would open to public, right? And, but here we are, and becoming an agritourism farm. And now we're doing cow cuddling, and getting into the milk side of it, the dairy side of it, which we'll get onto in a bit.
Absolutely. I love everything that you said. And I'm going to read the values that are posted right here on your website. It says, our deepest purpose at Gir Farms is to educate society about the importance of cows and bulls by bringing awareness about the significance of these divine beings and showing how they impact our daily lives, from our environment, spiritual well being, mental health, and our diet. The way to ensure their well being is through agricultural, because their main product is cow dung and cow urine. And a lot of people, I think you guys are very popular when it comes to this cow cuddling. This is a new buzzword that everybody is, before there was this goat yoga. People would go in a barn and they do yoga with sheeps and goats. And now it's cow cuddling. And when we were there with my sister and my nephew and niece, like, we learned a lot. We really, really did. Um, can we start off with this cow cuddling? The benefits and how this all came to be, because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that would be like, hey, if this is something that I can experience from a healing perspective, we could talk about that. Kids they gravitate to animals. Can we start from there?
Yes. So, funny thing is, cow cuddling actually sort of started off as by accident. I'll tell you. Yeah. So it was, we had someone approach us and said, they have a young daughter who hasn't left her home in about 8 years. She was very like bullied as a young child.
Oh wow.
So he approached my husband at and said, is it okay if I bring my daughter to your farm, because I've heard there's great benefits to spending time with animals, and she doesn't go anywhere, and she's 21 years old. And my husband was like, oh my goodness, like, yeah, sure, no problem. And at that time, we were not open to public, officially open to public. So him and his wife brought their daughter over, and she was almost nonverbal. Like, she just would not even make eye contact. She was extremely shy. And, I tried to get into conversations with her, and she was just very timid. So we just sort of left her with one of the baby cows, and we told the parents, like, take your time, spend your time here if she feels comfortable here. And Banu, she spent 3 hours there at our farm. And the look on her face, like, she was smiling, she was just like, completely different person. And when they left, her dad actually left a text message for my husband. And we still have it saved, and said, This was the best day of my daughter's life. And it was just, it really touched us. And we're like, oh my goodness, like we have something that maybe people are longing for. It's needed, right? And that's where it sort of like spun out from there, cow cuddling. And then my daughter was looking at that. My daughter goes, Mom, do you know cow cuddling is like a thing? I was like, what do you mean it's a thing? She said, no, it's an actual, like, especially in the UK and parts of the US, people go to do cow cuddling. And that's when I started doing more research into it and learned that there's actually a small little, I wouldn't call it a documentary, but like a study done on cow cuddling by the BBC. If you Google it, I believe there might be a link on it on our website, I believe, where cow cuddling is known to reduce anxiety and depression and lower your heart rate. Like it was actually scientifically proven. So that's when it just sort of like it made sense. And I was like, you know what? Yes. When you're out in nature, you're out with animals, you're on the land, it just makes you calm down. And then you put animals who are naturally calm. Like cows have a really, really slow heart rate. Like when I tell you they're lazy and they're very lazy and they're so laid back. And that's what we need. We
Yeah.
need more people who are just laid back. And when you sit with the cows, they just makes you feel like you just relax with them. You put your phone down. When guests come over, I tell them, I said, keep your phone on the side, put it on silent, keep your cameras on the side, let me do the pictures. So they just sit and enjoy and scratch them and hug them and cuddle with them. And I take pictures of them, and it's like lifetime of memories and happiness. Like I haven't met anybody who's been in a bad mood around a cow. It just doesn't happen. So that's
No,
how we started the cow cuddling.
yeah, and has it gained a lot of popularity like in the last little bit now? Is it like every year you just see more people sort of choosing this experience? Because I think a lot of people, it's not about going somewhere. They want to experience something
Yes.
with the ones that they love, family, children, grandparents. And so do you have is it on the rise right now? Like you see a lot more? Like you said, it helps with stress reduction, mindfulness, and it's a fun activity. Yeah.
Yes, no, absolutely. So believe it or not, we started cow cuddling just in 2024 in April. Was our first time we officially opened our calendar to do cow cuddling, and we were booked throughout until end of October. Just first week of November, when it got too cold, we couldn't do it. We were fully booked.
Wow.
Yeah, fully booked. And we don't do it. We don't do a lot of cow cuddling in a day. So because we do it during the daytime when the cows are like, when they're just relaxing. We don't do it early morning or late evening.
Right.
So we do it during the daytime, and we have even we had CTV News come and do a story on us for the cow cuddling because they heard about it from someone. So I think from that, and with social media and people posting pictures, and all animal lovers out there, and even people who are just inquisitive, they're just curious, like what is cow cuddling, like what do you actually get to touch a cow, and they're just curious. And I've met so many people since that time, and it's actually been a learning experience for me because I've met people who are just curious. I've met people who are genuinely going through stuff in their personal lives, and I've had a chance. It's a 1 hour session. I almost caught it like a cow cuddling therapy, right? And because when people really share their honestly like deep feelings with me, and I just feel like I feel grateful. I feel like, oh my goodness, like there's a platform here, and my amazing cows are helping these people just to have a better day, even if it puts a smile on them just for that 1 hour. And then I get messages like when they're driving home, like, hey, Monica, this was so amazing. Like, I don't even feel any anxiety when people are cutting me off in traffic. And I was like, you know, that's what it does to you. They have such a positive energy and positive aura that it emanates on you, and you take that back with you, right? And for me, like that's a driving force. And it's just been like, I get emotional talking about it because I see the emotions that it creates in people when I'm seeing them, whether it's kids and people who are going through their personal issues, whatever that may be, and they're like, you know what, this is amazing. Like I need to come back again because I this was just so needed. I actually share another story. So I lost my mom this year in
Oh,
May.
sorry to hear. We lost our father this year as well too. So
Yeah, so losing a parent is extremely tough. And I had a lady call me, and she said, "Hey, listen, I have a cow cuddling," and I said, "Can we rebook it?" There was something going on at the farm, whether it was weather or something. And she said, "No, please, I can't rebook because you know I, I'll tell you when I get there." So I said, "Sure, no problem, come." So that girl had also just lost her mother 3 weeks earlier. So I lost my mom, and she just lost her mom. And she's like a young professional girl from Toronto. And she's like, "I had to be here. This is the only thing that makes me feel better." And I was like, okay, this is the reason, right? And it's like, and for me, I'm like, I can't stop this now. I just can't stop.
such divine healing, and when you connect with nature, Monica, it allows us to get into our parasympathetic, letting go, surrendering, being with nature. And you alluded when we started that your spiritual guru had suggested that you open up this farm. Now that you look back, sort of putting you on the spot here, do you see the bigger picture now?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we thought, okay, just serving cows just for ourselves, our own family.
That's
We
right.
thought that that was it, like, just for us. But no, when they give you instructions, it means for the greater community, for the world. It doesn't just mean like, your happiness should be just in your, home and your backyard. It means connecting with the community on a larger level. And now you look back, and now I'm thinking, oh my goodness, like, they can foresee a lot more than we can. We can only just see within our own family, and that's it. They see much more than that. This was pre-COVID. So now we went through COVID while having the farm. We realized at that time, even, we're like, oh my goodness, like, if we didn't have the farm, like, people in the city were stuck at home. You could not leave. You're stuck in your buildings because there were so many restrictions. And us, we were sitting outside in fresh air with our animals, and felt grateful, felt blessed. And now we're seeing, and then we got into farming, and now we're seeing even more. Like, we have people, like, we only started organic farming 3 years ago. So now we're seeing people coming back, and they said, you know what, these were the best vegetables I ever had, because they're like, it just tastes so good. We have some farmers that buy from us and sell, and they said, well, I need your, I'm just giving an example, I need your eggplants because their customers are like, no, I want those ones. So he's having to come back to us to buy, because once you taste the food, your tongue will tell you.
It's absolutely true, Monica. When we were there, you took us through your field, your garden, and
Yes.
giving us samples, and then okra. It was you just pulled it out, and my nephew, who's very picky and who doesn't really trust anyone, you're like, oh, you gave it to him. You're like, here, taste this, without even a doubt. I guess the body already knew like this is good. He took a bite. He's like, oh my god, this is really good. Then my niece and my sister, and then and I've never had real okra that you chew, because usually it's, first of all, the color was different, and then when you bite on it, the taste was different. I was like, oh my god, that's when your body appreciates what you're eating, and now you have a new appreciation for what real organic food is, and then that's why I love the farm, because you have such great values. One, taking care of the animals, and when you take care of the animals and the farm will always give back to you. So you're like, you have this blessed farm field, like it's just amazing.
No, absolutely. I mean, I saw the look on your niece and nephew's faces. They were like, And then they kept wanting to eat more okra. And I was like, imagine a kid asking for raw okra.
I know. It's true, right? Like they want candy, chocolate, chips.
Yes.
Oh, can we get more okra? Can we get more okra? And then some of the other things that you had, I forgot what they're called. They're like long cucumbers, that those curly ones.
Yes. We call it, there's two names. Some people call it kakri and some people call it, I forgot the other name. Anyways, it's like a Indian cucumber.
Yeah, it was just so tasty. And so let's go back to the cow. So I love what you have going there. Now you also provide. First of all, you have names for the cows. So as we were going through the barn, you said you're. I don't remember all the cows' names, but I'm looking at your website. So you have Sita, you have Mahadev, Meeta, Mano, Gopi, Love. So I'm guessing you've named these cows.
Yes, yes. So all of our cows have names, and as a family, we take turns naming them. Sometimes we get into fights. Who gets to name them? So yes, we all get to name them, and so we all have our own favorite cows
Yes.
as well. So, and the reason why it's important to name them is, and when you actually say their name, they will look at you because you've been calling them that name since the time they're born. So it's not just a name for us to recognize them, it's a way to communicate with them. Like if, when there'll be 20 of them in the field and you call that one cow or bull's name, they will look. A lot of times other ones will turn around just because you're calling them, but that particular one will look at you and make eye contact and be like, yes, you're calling me. So they recognize their names. So it's important, that, they all have names. They're not just a tag in their ear. They're much more than that.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that as well too. And just like people, I remember when we were there, they have their own personalities too.
Yes.
Some could be moody, some could be like very energetic, just like people are. I remember the story that you were sharing. I forgot which one it was, but you're like when he or she was born, like it had like moody, like it was just very, very.
Yes, that was Madhav, the one with the really big head. And I said,
That's right.
he's just moody from the time he was born. He would hide behind his mom, wouldn't let us touch him, and he's still like that. He's there. He's now almost 7 years old, and his mom is still on the farm. She's 11 years old. So yeah, and some of them from the time they're born, they're just so bubbly, and they just want to be around you. They don't even want to be around the mom. They want to be around you, and that's just their personality. And they'll run towards me if we're walking on the field. They'll come behind me, walk with me, and their mom is walking the other way. So they understand that, that they're also our caregivers, right? The
Yeah.
mom is there, yes, but we're also there for love. And they understand that. They're very, very intelligent. They're actually very underrated for their intelligence.
You know what? Yeah, it's part of the Hindu faith, and me being Hindu as well too. We don't eat beef, so
Right.
I'll eat everything else, but beef, we've been ingrained in my head that we should not eat. However, that said, when my parents did come from India, we did have our Big Macs and all that, but then we made that change and we stopped eating beef. And we got some education from you there as well too, Monica. We didn't know, and because the school system somewhere must have gone wrong. My sister had asked, like, why don't the cows have horns?
Yes.
And we're like, oh, this is in our limited mind, we are thinking this is the way they're born. But then you gave us a whole education lesson on this, and it was just a very profound. I don't know if you want to talk about it or shed some light on it, if you can, or
I mean, sure, I can touch on it a little bit.
yeah,
So, all cows and horns, I mean, cows and bulls, sorry, have horns. And so, when they're born, they're actually dehorned. So, dehorned is is not a very pleasant experience. Let's just put it at that. I won't get into the details of it. So they are dehorned, which means their horns will never actually grow out. So it's almost like, getting rid of your nail bed. If you permanently damage your nail bed, your nails will not grow anymore. So that's done to them when they're extremely young, when they're just a few weeks. I don't know the exact time because we don't do that. So I believe it's when they're a few weeks until their horns are just very tender. And so, but I look at cows and bulls and I said, their horns are what makes them majestic. That's what makes them beautiful. It's part of their body, right? And to not have that, that's their own personal defense mechanism. And you remove that, now they can defend themselves in the event of an emergency. Say there's a wild animal or something, and they're not going to use that towards you and I. You and I are not the threat, you know. We're not a threat, especially on a sanctuary. The cows and bulls know what they're there for. They know why people come. They understand people come. They're just going to touch them, feed them, take pictures, and then, go home.
They're like little
But
celebrities almost, you know?
yes, and they know that. They know that very well. They're so smart. And like when people come, we have different food options to feed them. And
Right.
so we often tell people, I said, they're like, oh, well, this one's not eating the vegetables and this one's eating we have like jaggery, which is gourd, right? Which is like a sweet
Sugar.
candy.
Yes, we can
Yeah.
do.
So I tell them, I said, some of them don't eat the sugar stuff, some of them don't eat the vegetables, and some of them don't eat the grains. So they're like, how do you know? I said, we're with them every single day. So we go around and they see it. They're like, oh my goodness, like how does it know not to eat this? And I said, well, they're very smart. They know what they like,
Yeah.
and they can and so they pick and choose what they want to eat. So
Right.
they, in terms of personality, it shines. You can see it just by looking at them.
No, it's totally amazing. It really is. Cows produce milk, and we all love milk, and I have had my share of chocolate milk, and in the winter definitely love my hot chocolate with milk. And so this whole process, like when you had started, the cow farming, and um, how does this whole industry work with, like, there's the dairy farmers of Ontario or Canada. Like, this is all new for me. How does that whole umbrella work? Like, is there guidelines that you have to follow, even though, you do cow cuddling? Do they still come out and make sure that the cows are taken care of? Like, I don't know this, and I'm sure our listeners don't know this either. How does that whole scope work? You can sort of fill in the blanks for us here.
Right. So in terms of, so I'll get into how we are regulated as
Oh,
our.
yes, yes.
So we technically don't have a real regulation, and the reason being is because none of our cows or bulls will be used commercially as food.
Ah,
So for that reason, we don't have like a regulation over us to say, well, okay, you know, what are you, the immunization wise, or like how are you keeping them, like there's nobody coming to do that type of checkup. Not to say that, we have a vet that we work with, a great vet, and very close to us, and they come and see what we're doing. If we have any issues with them, like we do call upon them. And University of Guelph is, again, a great resource. They're like one of the largest agricultural hospitals for large animals.
oh, I
So
didn't
we
know
work,
that. Oh,
yes. So university there. So if we have an issue with, like one of our bulls needed surgery, so we have a trailer and we can drive down with our bull, and he will get surgery, and then we'll bring them back. So they know about our farm. They understand what we're doing, because our main thing is to make sure the care and the well-being of our cows and bulls. And many people don't deal with bulls because bulls are unfortunately a byproduct or a sideline of this industry. There's no, they're almost not needed, because when, if you look at the dairy industry, a lot of them are artificially inseminated. So you don't need a bull there. So when the
oh,
bulls are born, they're not needed on a dairy farm, because for one, they're not producing milk, and two, they're just they might be a nuisance on the farm for the farmers. So they're sent off to a different farm for to be processed or whatever they need to do. So for us, because we have the cows and the bulls here, the bulls will get older. Like our oldest bull is now, he's 11 years old. He's the first one that we started with. So his name is Mono, and he's 11 years old, and he's still here, but he's getting older. He's a bit slower now, so he needs a little bit more care. So for that reason, we do have vets, what we can call upon, and not only vets. I will share something else. We actually have an amazing community that if we just put a message out there and say, hey, we need help with one of our cows or bulls, we get people here at like within the hour be like, okay, what do you need help with? Because these people have come from India. They have experience with the cows. They've worked with them all their lives, and now they're immigrants here in this country, and they're doing other jobs, but that experience is with them, and they're like, oh, this is what you do. Like, I'll go back and share one experience. We had one cow that was there was an issue with her teeth. Like, so when we were, like, because we hand milk, so, and we only have like, two or three cows at a time that we milk because it's just for our family. So when we were milking, there was an issue with one of the teeth, and we called the vet in, and the vet came in, and she was great, but then could not do much with that teeth, unfortunately. And you have to understand that when
Are you
you're
saying
dealing with
teeth? Like teeth inside my mouth? Teeth?
teeth. No, they're milking teeth. Where you milk?
Oh, oh,
Sorry.
teeth. Oh, I had no idea. I'm like teeth. I'm like, okay, okay.
No, it's called teeth. Yeah,
Teeth. Okay. So others
milking
will
teeth.
pronounce it in a different way, but that's okay.
Yes. When we had an issue on a commercial dairy farm, if a cow, there's an issue, a small little health issue, it's almost like, okay, well, maybe this cow just needs to be sent to the feedlot instead of trying to spend all that money in fixing or
Yeah,
like taking care of the issue, right? So
that's right.
sometimes it's a lot more economic sense, right, from a business standpoint. But for us, being a sanctuary, and for us, their family, like, we don't have that option. We have to make sure that we exhaust all options before we even think of, forget feedlot, but I mean just like naturally letting them pass away,
Mhm.
right? Um, so we had somebody come from the community after the vet left, and they actually fixed that teat for the cow.
Wow.
Yes. And it was quite and shocking for us. And I was just like overwhelmed with emotion and support. And I was like, wow, this is what the community is there for, right? This is why it makes sense. And so we went back to the vet and we said, look, this cow is fixed. So we do have, there's always alternatives, right? I think if there's a will, there's a way. So, and that really sat with us. And now if we ever have any issues, we do call on a vet because, where medical intervention is needed. At the same time, you can also let go of natural healing as well. That also plays a big part in how we deal with our cows. We always try to deal with them in a natural way, and if there's absolutely nothing, then we do, go that approach. But we've been fortunate to have not many health issues because our cows are naturally, they're grazing. Our land is spray free. We don't spray any chemicals, and they get a lot of exercise and sunlight, and a lot of love and cuddles. So we've been fortunate with,
And the celebrities, they're like, bring it on. Yes, touch us, feed us. They're enjoying. Like when we were there, you can just feel the joy, and they're being loved for. And you can, the whole area, there's a sense of like belonging, connection,
yeah,
intimacy. It's such a wonderful, loving place.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
We were sort of just touching on so you had mentioned because of the practices here at Gir Farm, I guess the milk dairy board is not, or they don't regulate because the practices that you have. Is that right? Like that's what you
Yes,
had mentioned, right?
yes, because it's for personal family consumption, there it doesn't need to be regulated. Like, we don't need to, pasteurize, or we don't need to do any follow any safety protocols because it's
Yeah.
just for us as a family. And so, but Having said that, because we have a huge outpour of support for, people want it, they're like, well, can we get this milk, and so we get a lot of those inquiries, and so we're actually in talks with the dairy board, to sort of give us our own niche license. So I'll
Oh,
explain
wow.
what that is. So basically what it means is it will be known as a slaughter free dairy, right? So, which basically means none of the cows, even if they stop producing milk, they will not be sent to slaughter. The babies are kept with them, so the babies get the milk. And also, if it's a bull that's born, they will also not be slaughtered. So, any animals that land at Gir Farms will not be sent for food. So, that's one of the first guidelines, or first, I would say, like our uh, what do I want to say, commandment at the farm, that we will not. This is something we're not going to do. So for us, like, so they're kind of having a hard time understanding what that means, because they're used to, like, okay, well, cows are producing, and when they're no longer producing, they're sent to the feedlot. If the bulls that are born, they're sent to a different lot. So they're like, okay, you only need to have dairy cows here, and ABC. This is how everything works. And so when they came here, so I mean, we had a field representative from Dairy Farmers of Ontario, and came here, and he said, "Okay, you will work with you to see how we can make this work, because you have to produce a certain minimum amount of quota to be able to be legible to be a dairy farmer." And we said, well, we're not technically a dairy farmer. We need our own niche license, so that if somebody wants this milk, it should not be illegal, should not be, it's right now it's almost criminal, because any milk that leaves your farm, it's a criminal offense now. And
Oh,
so we're working with them to say, okay, well, we don't want to do anything that's criminal,
right.
but we want to work with you and say, okay, how can you work with us? So we've been in talks with them for actually a number of years. It's been almost 5 years.
Wow.
So yes. So it was, at the beginning, was a few tough conversations, but I think they really understand what we're doing, and kind of bringing it to light. Like, look, if we join hands, it'll sort of give everybody maybe a positive outlook on dairy, right? A different aspect of it, that you can have a middle ground as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be that those practices that you, as a person who's like a animal lover, activist, does not believe in those things, but you have a middle ground here that we can work with. So we've actually had great conversations with them. So we are moving forward in that, and hopefully we will have, our license to produce that dairy at our own farm on a very low volume, just a very niche product for people who believe in this cause. And so we're working
Will
towards
that be
that.
like a first in Ontario, or do you know, like, how were you sort of motivated to sort of, this niche market? Is there, were you inspired by other farmers? You saw maybe somebody, like another farmer in a different country? Um,
Yes, so we will be the first in Canada for sure. There is, I believe, maybe one in the US and one in the UK.
wow.
But yeah, it's very, very little on very small scales, and we couldn't even provide it to all of the GTA. Like,
That's Next thing you
we
know,
wouldn't
you
even
see the
provide milk. Yeah, it'll just be like very, as I said, very niche, very small,
Yeah, exactly.
micro dairy, right? So, and because our cows produce what you call A2 protein milk, so which is also,
Yes, you know what? It was interesting. Sorry to cut you off there, Monica, because
yeah,
when we were going home, we were. I remember my sister and I. We started having this conversation about A2, A1. Can you sort of elaborate, because this was very educational. Like, not only are you going there to cuddle the cows, but if you meet the right people, you get the education too. Can you sort of? I think you were going to talk about it. Can we sort of go over that?
yes, absolutely. So cows produce. If you look at the the North American cows. They're the ones with the flat back. So I will, you can distinguish them. So they
Right.
have a flat back, and whereas a lot of the cows in even Africa and Asia, and especially the cows that we have, they have a big hump on their back. So there's two, they divide them in two breeds. There's the Bos Indicus and the Bos Taurus. So ours is known as Bos Taurus. So they produce naturally A2 protein milk. So which means people ask, well, what do you mean by A1, A2? So I don't
Exactly.
know if you've gone to the stores now, you'll actually see some places that sell A2 milk. And the difference between the two is the protein. So why people are having such a hard time digesting dairy is because of the A1 protein in the milk. And so because our cows, our gear cows naturally produce A2, you have, it's easily digested by people. Like if you're, if you have even like lactose issues, like I'm not claiming to be a
That's right.
doctor or anything, but I'm just saying like it is very, very light on the body. You don't get that, feeling of like bloatness and all
Loaded.
that stuff, right? And that's what people like when, as soon as they drink dairy, they're like, oh, I feel bloated. I just, I need to run to the bathroom. And, whereas, this milk is very light on the stomach, and you don't have that sense of bloatiness. So if you do some research on A1 and A2, there's a lot of it out there, but there's actually a book called A Devil in the Milk. It's by like a
Devil in
New
the milk.
Zealand author, yeah, Devil in the
I'm
Milk.
gonna put
So,
it down. Yeah.
and he's done great research on A1 and A2 protein milk. So you can look into
Devil
that.
in the what?
Devil in the Milk.
Milk. Oh, wow. Okay, got it. Have
Yeah.
you sort of read that book yourself, or just?
I read parts of it, but I'm already, I said, because I started reading it. I'm not a much of a reader, to be honest.
Well, there's Audible, right? There's Audible now. You don't have to read it. You
Yes,
can
yes.
listen to
But I have done my own like research, and we've known about this A2 milk versus A1. So
it.
I
Yeah.
said it's just for people who want more of an in-depth, like more with like proof or like in more insightful stuff in there. It's a great read from, I've heard about it from a lot of different people.
If I'm just, thank you for bringing this up, and I'm sure this is very educational for those who are listening. I'm on the
Right.
actual website, and the back of the book has a summary. I just want to read this little bit. It's very interesting. In The Devil in the Milk, Keith Woodford brings together the evidence published in more than 100 scientific papers. He examines the population studies that look at the link between consumption of A1 milk and the incidence of heart disease and type 1 diabetes. He explains the science that underpins the A1 A2 hypothesis, and he examines the research undertaken with animal and humans. The evidence is compelling. And the last sentence says, we should be switching to A2 milk. I didn't even know any of this. Oh my God.
Yes, and you know what's, so what's mind-boggling to me is now you'll see in the mainstream dairy, I see a lot of farms now switching to A2, but still using the other cows. So when I look at anything that's being done scientifically to do A2, and I said, okay, no, but it's like like a certain animal is meant to produce this milk, and then you have one that's been scientifically, to be.
Yeah,
So for me, I didn't do enough research into this to see how that's being done,
right.
um, because I'm not, but I want to know how it's being done and if it's possible and how real is it, because
Yeah.
an animal that's naturally producing that, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to intervene scientifically. It's naturally there.
It's naturally, yeah. You know what?
Right.
We live in a time and place now, Monica, where I think the world is waking up to everything.
Yes. We have to
Politics,
question everything.
economics, farming, agricultural, everything. And when you sort of shared this with when I was there, first of all, I was on overload. I was like, "You're just throwing all this information," and I just hit myself against the wall. I'm like, "Oh my God!" And then you just brought this up again, and it sort of reminded me, like, wow, like we need to do our homework.
Yes. I think we need to question everything that's being thrown at us and like being like, oh, now this is good for you. Well, first I'll go back to, for example, ghee.
Yeah,
Ghee is one. like such an amazing, amazing product. And
Right.
a long time ago, butter was like a devil. It's like, no, no butter, no ghee, nothing. It was all about like, the canola oils and the sunflower oils, right? And now we're going back, and now all the dietitians and the health people are like, no, 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 ghee is the best thing on the planet. And we're like,
It's so
yeah, we knew that, you know?
yeah.
And so like I'm like, just go back and listen to your grandparents what
Oh yeah.
how they were eating, right? And so I think we need to question all that. And but I think I would love for anybody listening to this to do their research on the A1 and A2 milk and understand the difference. And I will highlight more of that on our website too. Just
It's new, absolutely. Like, so those who like me now, if I go out and I buy milk, has it been regulated now that they have to print A1, like with all the different brands of milk out there, Sealess or Sealant or Hewitt or whatever the milk companies are out there? Do they have to write like A1 or A2 on it, or because
I
I didn't even know this was an option.
so yeah, so I actually had so I'll mention I had someone come cow cuddling. So they mentioned to me because we got on this conversation of A1 and A2,
Yeah.
and they said, "Oh yeah, I switched from A1 to A2, and I feel so much better. Like I don't get that bloatiness." So I hear that feedback from people, and so I don't know if they need to label it, but I think they should because one, it's you get more value for your product, right?
It's
It's like
true.
saying something is organic or certified. So I believe the ones that are producing A2 do write A2 on the milk, but
Can
it's
you mention, are you aware of any brands? And the second follow-up question is, does the Dairy Regulation Board have any issues with this? If you're aware, or if you can share any insights or anything like that.
No, the dairy board doesn't have any issues with you listing it as A2 because some of the larger, even dairy farms in Ontario, they're producing A2. So
Oh,
there's actually a farm, there's Golden Guernsey cow breed, they naturally produce A2. So there are cows that are also produced, it's not just Gir cows, right? But Gir cows are obviously indigenous to a farm, to a part in India. So they're originally from Gujarat, and now a large percentage of them live in Brazil. So for
right.
them, they naturally produce that A2, but the dairy board absolutely has no issues with that. Just like how they're doing like lactose free and like, or so many different labels out there. Honestly, I don't buy the dairy, so I can't tell you what brand, but like,
Yeah, 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 yeah. You have your own cows.
I
Yeah,
skip by the milk section because I'm like,
I know, I
but
know, and I
when you see it, yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, it's true. I guess just as a customer of milk, when you don't know, right? Like I've traveled a lot, and every time I go back to India, there's always a different in taste in the milk. And now I'm putting like one plus one. I go, is it because it's A2 versus A1? And and then obviously there's the farming etiquettes and the regulation
Right.
process, and then the care of how they raise the cows and so forth, and what they're given to eat. Um, I guess with your cows, you're getting not the standard corn and hay. Like your cows are getting like good quality food, is if I can.
So, I mean, our cows, okay, so I always look at two things in milk. I said there's the physical and the mental aspect, right? So, physically is what you feed them, right? So, what they're eating. So our cows are grazing, like
Yeah,
they're outside on pasture. And so and we don't spray anything. So, we have natural organic pasture, and actually we got really blessed with this property, so even the farmer before us has never sprayed on this land, like and for as far as he can remember, even his great great grandparents, he says this land was untouched. So they just had like some cows always just grazing, and they never really needed to, because they never grew vegetables, they never did anything on the land. So they said they never even sprayed their hay. So we got very blessed and very fortunate to have land that's been like organic for over over a few hundred years, and which is rare to find that these days. So for that reason, like what they're eating is really pure. And actually, I'll share one story too. So back in 2017, the first year we got the cows, we're new to this. We're learning, and so we ran out of hay, and so we're like, uh-oh, so what do we do now? Because the guy that we bought the land from used to cut our hay and would give it to us, and we told him, I said, look, we ran out of hay. He said, oh, it's okay, you can just buy some hay from a local farmer like from here. And we're like, okay, can you just give us 10 hay bales until our next, it needs to be cut, so we'll have our own hay. He said, sure. So we brought 10 hay bales over.
When you say
And
hay bales, what does that mean? Again, this is
oh,
farm language.
okay, sorry. So the big round
The
things that you
rolls. Oh,
are
okay.
big
They call
rolls? Yeah,
bills? Hay bills?
hay bale. Those are hay bales. So that's
Oh,
what the cows eat. So those are cut typically in July, August, and into September, and then we keep them throughout the year
got it.
so that cows have food to eat in the winter because we obviously don't have grazing area in the winter. So we brought those 10 hay bales over, and can you believe it, Banu? Like the cows did not eat that hay.
Oh my God.
They sniffed it and they didn't eat it, and we were shocked. And I was like, we thought we were doing something wrong because we just got the cows that summer
Yeah.
in March, or it was in May, and this was like in July, and we're like, why are the cows not eating the hay? So we called that farmer and we said, listen, is something wrong with your hay, because like our cows are not eating it? And he says, no, cows will eat anything, don't worry, just feed them, and they'll even eat hay that's like old. And I was like, well, they're not eating this hay. And because they were used to eating the organic hay, and then the hay that was brought, they sniffed it and they wouldn't eat it. So we're like, okay, well, so that those 10 hay bales went to waste. We just used them as mulch on the land and for our farming, and that was it. And then so we were feeding them, like we had to bring so many like pumpkins and carrots and beets and things to feed our cows, because we're like, we don't have hay. I was like, we can't even bring hay from outside to feed them. So
Oh,
unless we go and find organic hay somewhere, and we're new, we're like, where do we find organic hay? They're like, well, everybody sprays because you need to get more volume, so everybody sprays their hay fields. So then we just kept giving them extra other food until our hay was ready. So that's how
wow.
in intelligent these our cows are.
You see,
And so
you learn, yeah, it's just amazing. Like a whole different appreciation for the world of cows. Let's hear it for the cows.
yes,
Let's hear it for the cows. Yeah, no, it's amazing. Yeah, so you educated us on, the A1, A2, and you also had mentioned when we were there that when it comes to importing cows, that you can't get it, you can only get it from neighboring countries or something like that, or you cannot get it from neighboring countries. That there's, do you know what I'm talking about?
yes,
Yes, can you go over that because that was educational as well too.
sure. So when you bring cows, we can only, as Canadians, we can only import cows from the United States. Nowhere else in the world can we import cows. And so, and when we started, like, my husband Vishal really wanted these Gir cows because we actually fell in love with this breed when we visited India. And I was like, oh, these cows are so sweet, they're so calm. And it was our first experience with this breed. And he says, well, I want these cows if I'm going to be having a farm. So we started looking for this breed, and we're like, well, they're only available in India, or they're available like in Brazil. And we're like, okay, so how do we bring them in from Brazil to here? We cannot bring them from India. And then so we, got in touch with the authorities and stuff in Canada, and they said, no, you cannot bring cows from anywhere other than the United States. And we're like, why not? And that's just how their system is designed, right? So I can't give you any background on to why they did whatever they did, but so we're like, okay, we kind of got a little disappointed. And then but fortunately enough, my husband's a go-getter. He refused to give up. He's like, I have to find them. So he found this guy in Texas that was he had these two cows, the Gir cows, and he had just brought them in from Brazil to Mexico, and they were being quarantined in US right now. So my husband's like, called him up and he said, "Listen, I have the two cows that you have?" And he's like, "No, no, no, I just got them. Like, I've heard great things about this breed, and like I'm gonna be breeding more and doing this." And my husband's like, "No, no, no, please, I have to have them because like I will take care of them for the rest of my life. I won't do anything, and I'm not gonna send them to the feedlot. Like I will love them like family. Like you have to give me." And so he was like, "No, I'm sorry, I can't. They're not for sale." And so then my husband was like, "No, I have." Then he called him again. He called him again. He kept like almost like bugging him, and then he got to be like great friends with this guy. And then he flew down to see him. He flew down to see him, and he said, "Listen, like he saw them in person, and that guy was sort of inspired by by my husband in what he wanted to do. So he said, 'Okay, I'll give you one of them.'" And then my husband's like, "Yeah, but I can't have one. It needs company. Like I need both." And so I don't know how he agreed, and he just sort of he said, "Okay, fine. You know what? I'll bring more. You can have these two, but it's going to cost you an arm and a leg." My husband's like, "I don't care. Just I will. That's like me. It's like I'm protecting them, saving them. I will." He goes. He gave him a deposit, and he said, "Okay, they're mine. Don't give them to anyone."
Yeah.
So that's how we got these two cows. Actually, it was quite a journey. So then, and then us as a family with our three kids, we took our trailer and we drove down to Texas,
Wow.
and then we drove back with them. Yeah, because we didn't want to put them on a trailer where they're with other cows that are like, they would be so scared because
Oh,
those cows are obviously going for a different purpose. And then we just didn't want to put them through that, uncomfortable experience. And so we bought a brand new trailer at that time. We bought a brand new pickup truck, and they were in the back of the trailer. And we drove through, like, all the way from Texas through, Tennessee, Kentucky, and all the way through Windsor. And so it was a bit of I think I can write a book on that experience alone.
wow. What a great story. Wow. Like you say, if there's a will, there's a way, always.
Yes, yes.
And
So we were very blessed and fortunate to find this particular breed, and now ever since we've had them now since 2017, we've seen a whole bunch of farms in the U.S. pop up with these breed and promoting them, and saying that all these good things about them. So all over, like if it's U.S. or like North Carolina, and
really,
so
wow.
yes,
So just to pick your brain a little bit, Monica, in the last couple
yes.
minutes that we have here. So you said that outside of Gujarat, Brazil has these Gir cows. So did like whoever in Brazil, the farmers, or so they bought these from Gujarat, from India, or they?
Uh, Yes, actually, there's a story. I don't know what year, but somewhere in the 1930s or 40s. Don't quote me on it, but
Yes.
you can probably look it up too. There was like I believe a king that was taking refuge in Gujarat at that time. That time it wasn't governance; it was more like kingdoms everywhere. So there's a lot of issues going on in the world. So they taken refuge there. And when he was going back to Brazil,
Yes.
one of the Rajas there actually gifted the Gir cow or bull.
Yeah.
I believe it was a bull and a cow, but I'm not too sure. Gifted to him, so he took them back to Brazil, and they've thrived there ever since that time. And in fact, there's a higher percentage of Gir cows in Brazil now than there is in India, and that's due to the fact that you know we come with this mindset. Look, farmers are very innocent at that time. With all the Western influence, they came and said, "Oh, well, your cows are only producing 8 to 10 liters a day. Take our cows because they're producing like 40, 50 liters." So the farmer was like, "Oh, well, great. Like I can now have 50, 60 liters and I only have to feed one cow versus having, maybe four or five of the other cows and I have to feed, that many more cows." So I think that we lost value and the importance of our indigenous breed of cows, and you know and so that's where they lost their value. But in the last, like, I would say, I want to say about 10, minimum 10 to 15 years, there's been a comeback into your original indigenous breeds, because now you're realizing that, hold on, quantity is not always better over quality, right? So the quality of milk is way better with these cows than to be someone who's producing 52. Now they're upwards of 80 liters a day, right? Whereas these cows are still only 8 to 10. Like, they produce very little, but the quality is really good. So now there's been a shift, a paradigm shift in terms of even farmers in India. They're now going back to the indigenous breeds because they're realize there's actually been studies done on the milk and the ghee between the two different breeds, and there's a difference, like, in terms of the quality of that. So, and that's where I think this author really points on the scientific studies of that, right? So where he's done all that research.
Yeah, no, it's definitely amazing. It's people need to, and that's why I love doing this podcast because Monica, I become the student and I learn about the body, the mind, and the spirit, and this whole. I
Right.
never imagined that I would have a farmer come on my podcast, but then there's an important role that farmers play because without farms, there's no food. And
Yes.
visiting your farm, you sort of definitely, or you did 100% in a beautiful way, educated us on so much. And as we were going back home, we were like, oh my God, like not only did we enjoy all the vegetables and that we picked up from there, and the nice, delicious water we had, but just the education that we had there as well. It was just amazing, and I'm just so thankful for having you on. I want to let our listeners know also not only does Gir Farm have it's not only the cow cuddling, which is therapeutic, but you also have horses. You do have two horses there as well. If you would like
Yes.
to talk about them, you can. But you also do cow, like in Hinduism we call it a puja, or like a prayer or worship. I don't know if you want to talk about that. You can visit, you can feed the cows. You also have an adaptation, adopt, I guess, like a program, or where those who would like to, they can contribute to the farm. Can you just shed some light on those, Monica?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, we do have, going back to the horses actually. So we have two horses, and so their names are Ram and Sham.
Around.
So we actually got those two horses in 2017, the same year we got our cows. In fact, they actually came on the land even before the cows. And so how that happened was, because we were not living on the farm until the cows came. So before that, when we would come to the farm, it would just be like boring land. It was just nothing there. And like we would come and we would, like, there was the old barn there. We'd get a little scared going in. We're thinking, oh my goodness, like what if some other wild animal is here, because all the grass is now overgrown. Like, when you leave something sort of deserted. And so we had someone approach us and said, I have two horses that are, they come from Woodbine Racing, so they're no longer racing, but the owner doesn't want to sort of part with them. Do you guys mind just taking them in? And she's like, I'll come in, like, take care of their hoofs that need to be trimmed, like I'll come check on them. And we're like, we don't know anything about horses. And she said, don't worry, I'll train you, I'll teach you everything. So we thought, okay, well, I was like, what do you have to do with them? She said, nothing, you just have to feed them, make sure they have shelter, they have hay, they have water. So we got the two horses in I believe February of that year, and cows didn't come until May. So for those like 3 months or so, we would go back and forth from the city. We would drive every day to feed them like carrots and stuff. So we got really really got to know the horses, and they kept a good, like, they just look so beautiful on the land. They just make the land so radiant, and they've become like huge celebrities of people that come. Like, oh, can we get a picture with the horses?
Yeah,
Because one is like a golden color, one's like black,
that's right.
and they're almost become like little horse cuddlers too, because they hang out with the cows and bulls all day. So
No, it's true. It's so true. And you said something very delightful as well too. I think I don't know if it was Sham or Ram, but one of them sneezes a lot as well too. And my sister was standing right beside, I forgot which one it was, and it sneezed. And you're like, oh, that's amazing because they actually support your immune system. And I was like, really? So I didn't know anything about that until you brought that up at that time.
Yes, no, I think kids who grow up on farms are known to have less allergies and less issues, and like they have a stronger immune system when you're around, especially with horses and cows. Like your immunity is much more stronger because you're out there in the elements, you're out there with fresh air, you're exposed to all like the allergens at a really young age. Whereas we live in I call it a Lysol world, right? So everything is like disinfectants, and then the moment our body touches a little bit of germs or some, we start sneezing. So we're being and farmers kids are always just around that. So I think it does add to the immunity for sure. But yeah, no, alongside like our horses, we do like go puja, which is a huge component of the Hindu religion, right? Because it's not a cultural thing, and it's not a like a thing where we just do it because our grandparents told us to feed the cows. It's actually much more than that. There's actually it's part of the religion. So there's a lot of quotes in the scriptures that explain the significance of feeding and taking care, and of the cows and the bulls. Actually, we often forget the bulls, but in fact, the bulls have even a higher importance in the Hindu religion than the cow itself.
Oh,
So I'll share one more thing. So we were in Rajasthan, India, just about a year and a half ago, and so we met with this saint, and he has over 150,000 cows in Rajasthan. He's one of the largest sanctuary, so he's not a like a dairy farm or anything. He's it's a goshala, which is a sanctuary for the cows. So he's one of the largest ones in the world. And when we met him, he said something very beautiful. He said, we often hear that to feed a cow with your hand is important. Yes, it's very important. There's a significance in feeding a cow with your own hands. And then he says, above that, there's an importance of feeding the bull with your hand, even more important than feeding the cow. And then he goes, do you know what's even more important? And we were looking at each other, we're like, what do you mean? Like, we thought, okay, it's cows and bulls. Like, what can be more important than feeding, we thought maybe it's another animal. He said, no. He said something, it really stuck with me. He said, no. He goes, feeding the land that you're standing on, their cow manure and cow urine is even more important. And it takes you a minute. You're like, what do you mean by that? And now you think, we're like, no, because what are we really feeding our land? We're not feeding it nutrition that it needs.
right.
So it just and these are the educational things that we get from them. We learn from them, and I can pass it along to you, right? And hopefully it gets passed on to people who are listening and can really appreciate, like, yeah, what are we really doing to our lands, And we need to feed them that, because that is food for the land.
It is. It is. It is. As we sort of come to an end here, adopt a cow, bull. How does that process work? Um, and if you can just explain
Sure.
that. Is it a monthly program? Is it a one-time donation? What are the options? Those who would like to sort of, give back to nature and cows and the significance to all of them.
Sure. So actually, even adopting a cow thing only started about a couple of years ago, and we have some families that said, like, is it okay if like we help you with one of the cows, like taking care? So we said we calculated out in the number of cows that we have and how much it costs us per year.
Can you share
So
that with us? Like, what is
yeah,
the average? What is the average, anyways, to take care of one single cow in a given year?
yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. So whether it's a cow or bull, because for us they're both the same.
Yeah.
So they both, each one cost us about $3,000 in 1 year.
Okay.
So that's the cost for, and we put into account like could be like their vet expenses or their feeding or like, their, the barn, the heating, everything, maintenance of the barn equipment. Everything is included in that, minus our family's labor,
Yeah.
you know? And so that's just direct cost for the cow or the bull. So it's $3,000. And again, I get very emotional saying this because since we started the cow adoption program, we have right now 24 cows and bulls, and every single one of them has been adopted by 24 amazing families. And because they said, you know what, no, whether it's a cow or bull doesn't matter, and we'll take care of that cow for the rest of its life. So every year, they will pay for that cow or bull until they feel like, okay, this is mine, but okay, I can't take it in my backyard, but at least we know it's living here, but I contribute towards that. And so it's one family per cow or bull. It's not you if they've already been adopted, then nobody else can adopt anymore, because it's not like, we won't take from multiple people for one cow or bull. And what's amazing now is, like, they all get, as a baby is born, they get to name that baby.
Ah,
So which is so special. And they all get, we get, before we were part of the naming
that's
ceremony, and
right.
now they do. And when they do adopt, they come and actually do like an actual puja with like a priest, and say, okay, you know what, we're taking on official responsibility for this cow or bull. And then they come and visit. Actually, I had people on, this weekend was Janmashtami, and so I had a family come and they said, "Oh, I'm here to see my cow Nandini, and she's our baby." And so they see her growing up, and they're like, "Oh, she has so much attitude now. She was so like sweet, and now she's like hitting her head." And I said, "Well, they're growing up, right? They're
Yeah,
they're realizing they have some power to them, so they."
that's right.
It's amazing when you see them and they just get so happy, and they're telling people, "That's our cow, that's our baby cow," right? And
Amazing.
I think that sense of belongingness of that community is amazing.
No, it is. It is. It's beautiful actually, and
Yes,
in some karmic positive way, I'm sure they receive all the multiple benefits of that as well too.
yes, for sure.
Wow. Monica, the it was very. I'm really happy that me and my sister and my nephew niece had a chance to sort of come and check out your farm, learn a lot, and I'll definitely add your website to our show notes. Can you just let our listeners know about, like, approximate, or not approximate, but your location? Are you in Caledon, right? Is it in Caledon you're in?
Yes, we're actually in Caledon East. Caledon's pretty big, so we're in Caledon East, which is just north of Bolton. So Highway 9 and Highway 50 is our major intersection. So just to give you a ballpark, so we're about an hour from everywhere almost. Like if you go into
Yeah.
Toronto, we're about an hour, Mississauga an hour, even Barrie. So we're sort of like centrally located,
Yeah.
which is again a blessing.
It is a blessing, And then we didn't touch upon this, but because of the growth of the farm, you guys are also now in the process of starting that foundation for the greenhouse. I don't know if you want to talk
Yes.
about that as well too. I forgot about that.
Oh, yes. Actually, we the foundation's already been poured just this last weekend, so it's all ready to go. So our goal is to have it up. Hopefully, within the month, it'll be up. Super excited
More work
about that.
for you, eh?
Yes, more work, but you know what? Like we get people who, with these days with the economy, like people are looking for work, right? So if we can find ways where people can work on the farm and, potentially live on the farm as well, because we do have infrastructure here, so they can live and work on the farm. Like why not? It's, as you're growing, you cannot do everything yourself.
No.
You need more people around you. You can only do so much with your two hands, right? When you have more people, it's just more ideas on the table as well. So definitely more work, but again, I think the way that we're growing into an agritourism and all that other stuff,
Yes.
so I think it is needed, and we're excited for the future and see what
I think you guys are going to have little hotels on the farm, or like a water slide park. All right, this afternoon we're going to feed the cows. We're going to do some cow cuddling, and then we're going to go on the lazy river afterwards.
Oh, that would be nice. Imagine like I actually saw a farm in India that actually has a lazy river for their cows.
Oh, what?
And I was like, oh, I can't do it here because it's too cold, right? But they actually have an area on the farm where the cows go in one side, and then they like literally they just go around, and it's literally like a lazy river for the cows. It's actually real.
Wow, that's amazing. Wow,
Yeah.
that is amazing. All right, Monica. Thank you so much for being here and sharing
No,
your
thank
wisdom.
you. No,
And
thank you so
just
much
to
for
let our
having.
listeners know, this is Monica's first time doing a podcast. She didn't know I was going to say this, but I just didn't say it. But she did an amazing job. So respect to you, and yeah, please go out, support your local farms, check out Gir Farm, learn about A1, A2. I will definitely add Monica's farm's details on our show notes. So once again, Monica, thank you for coming on. We appreciate it.
No, thank you. Thank you so much.